Hey Fae folk, welcome back. So for today's video, we're going to be doing another Monster High Hypotheticals video, and I am super duper excited for this one. First of all, it is going to be a little bit different than the previous two videos I've done because we're going to be tackling G1 Monster High characters. The last couple of hypothetical videos I've done, I have done scenarios for the G3 cast, but today we're going to be taking a look at like the classics. We're going to be going with G1, so going to be a little bit different, kind of slightly different personalities for some of the characters, and should be pretty fun. If you don't know what I'm talking about, if you're like, what do you mean by hypotheticals? I've done a couple videos now where I just take a little like selection of Monster High characters and I place them in silly little imaginary scenarios in my head, and I talk about how I think they would react. So I know I've done stuff like who I think would help you hide a body versus who would absolutely not be helping you hide a body, or what I think that they would order from McDonald's. Just really useless nonsense. It's just supposed to be fun and silly. If that still doesn't make sense, if you just keep watching, I promise it will start to make sense once we get into like some live examples. But yeah, that's what we're going to be doing today. As with all of my videos, everything I say is just going to be my opinion, and it's also just meant to be silly and to be entertaining. So don't take any of it too seriously or too personally if you think that I am wildly incorrect with my characterization of these Monster High characters. But yeah, that's what we're going to be doing. I feel like this is going to be another long one, so let's go ahead and dive on in. So the cast of characters that we're going to be working with today are Draculaura, Cleo, Frankie, Laguna, Claudine, and Deuce. I obviously tried to do kind of the main characters there. I did debate doing Ghoulia instead of Deuce, but I really wanted to have at least one Manster on the docket. And also, I really liked him in G1. I feel like he was just like a chill dude with good vibes. So I wanted to get to talk about Deuce, so that is who we will be putting into these little scenarios today. And the first scenario is marriage order. So I'm hypothesizing about who, once they graduate from Monster High, is going to get married first to who is going to get married last. So we are going to be doing like the ranking style for this particular scenario, but we are going to be going like number 1 to number 6. And so first, I think it is Cleo. Like, I feel like that's pretty obvious. She is going to get married to Deuce, so he's going to like pop right into second place there. I think Cleo is first place out of the two for me, simply because she's going to be the one who's ready first, in my opinion. I feel like she already like has such a commitment to Deuce. They've already been together for a while, and I feel like she wants to have the big fat party. Like, I think for her, she's like, we are already in a committed relationship. I'm ready to have the wedding of the millennium. So with that, I also just want to say I think she would be a violent bridezilla. Like, Cleo is going absolutely nuclear for this wedding. Everything has to be perfect. She has to approve everything. If one thing goes wrong, she is going to scream. It's going to be wild, but also when it all goes through, it's going to be the best wedding you've ever seen, because Cleo is not sparing any expense. Like, she is going to spend every ounce of money she can get from her dad on this wedding, and it's going to show, and it's going to be the biggest party and the best party literally ever. So I think Cleo is definitely going to be the one who gets married first. And then with Deuce, like I said, he is getting married to Cleo. I think that he's second place because like he'll go along with it. Like, he also loves her and is like totally chill with the commitment to her. He's just like less excited about the actual party aspect. I mean, we've seen, especially in Boo York, that he doesn't really do well with like big fancy settings, but he is willing to try for Cleo. And like, this is the big day. He's not going to take that away from her. So I think he would be like slightly more hesitant just because he's not excited to be the center of attention, but he's going to do it for his girl. He's going to be like, okay, it's just one day that I have to get through and it'll be fine. He makes absolutely no decisions about the wedding except for like making sure who he wants to be invited gets invited. That's it. Other than that, he's just like, yes, dear, whatever you want. I don't mean that in a bad way. Like, I feel like some people might take that in like a negative way. I just truly think that Deuce wouldn't care about the actual like party, about like having the wedding so much as, you know, solidifying his commitment to Cleo. So I think for him, he'd be like, okay, yes, I'm down to get married. Like, I love you. I want to be with you forever. You can have fun with the party because like that's not my thing. And honestly, I kind of just have to get through it, but I'll do it for you. So I don't mean it in a bad way. I think he'd just be like laid back, like, okay, tell me when to show up, make sure you're happy. That's what matters to me. So Cleo and Deuce, definitely the first two getting married. Hi, Reese. My cat has joined us. Hi, baby girl. Anyway, third to get married, I think, is going to be Draculaura. In my dream scenario, in my head, she catches the bouquet at Cleo's wedding, and so therefore she's the next one to get married. And she's going to get married to Claude, obviously. I have talked a lot on this channel about how I do think sometimes Claude and Draculaura are super great together, but sometimes within the Gen 1 media, their like writing gets switched up. So like sometimes they're really great characters, and then sometimes they're written to be like kind of shit. Dracula more so than Claude, but he does have his moments as well. I'm just assuming this is the best version of these characters, okay? So in the best version of these characters, Dracula and Claude have also been together for a while. They're very deeply committed to each other. She catches the bouquet at Cleo's wedding, and it's like, okay, time to plan another fancy party. I do think that Claude would be slightly more involved with the wedding, and I also think that it would be enormous. Like Cleo's is big in terms of extravagance and also definitely the guest list. But Draculaura's, I think, would be slightly less extravagant, but maybe even have a bigger guest list just because I feel like with all of the Wolf siblings and like presumably the extended relatives they have, Claude probably has so many people that he has to invite. I feel like it might be kind of stressful for them, but they're committed. They love each other. They're going to get through it and they're going to have a wonderful time on their wedding day. So Draculaura is getting married to Claude. He's not on the list today, but like if he were, he'd be in fourth place, but kind of an honorary fourth place, I guess. In actual fourth place, we have Laguna, and I do think that she would get married to Gil. If you haven't seen it, I made a whole video in defense of Gil talking about how I don't think that he is as horrible to Laguna as a lot of people characterize him as being. I think a lot of it just stems from being a teenager and how it is really confusing and difficult to realize that your views don't align with your parents, especially when you're young and you still rely on them. Like that's just a difficult thing. That's like the basis of that video, but I will link it if you want to see it. I am really proud of that one. I think that was a solid video of mine. But yeah, anyway, I do think that Laguna and Gil would get married. Next up in the order of operations here, he definitely cut off his parents like ages ago. No one from his family is invited because in my head, he and Laguna graduated. He was able to like, get whatever career he's going to get. He's sustaining himself. He's no longer reliant on his parents. And he's like, okay, if you guys are going to keep being bigots, I'm out. Like we're not talking again. So Gil doesn't have any of like his family or anything at the wedding, but it's so much happier for that. There's no toxicity. I think that it wouldn't be like a very expensive like affair. Like it wouldn't be tons of decorations and catering and all that like crazy stuff. I think Laguna and him would get married in the Great Scary Reef with her family. I think there would be a lot of guests just to like share the love, just not really spending a ton of money on like decor and stuff. Hi, little baby. So yeah, I think that they would have like a really wholesome home wedding, like kind of like a backyard wedding, but like in the Great Scary Reef, so underwater. I don't know what that would be called. Like a coral reef wedding. I don't know, but I think it would be super cute. Obviously, Laguna's family would more than compensate for the lack of support that Gil has from his family. They'd be super chill, super loving, and all the friends would be super loving. I think it would be a beautiful affair. So they are next up on the list. Next up, we have Frankie, and I just realized I forgot to give like an additional disclaimer. I don't like G1 Frankie, so I might not be super nice this video. So in regards to Frankie, I don't know if she would ever get married. And I'm not saying this in like I feel like a lot of people look at Frankie's character. God, I don't even know how to get into this. A lot of people when talking about Gen 1 Frankie talk about how she's super boy crazy and she has all these crushes and all these boyfriends. And I will say, I don't think that in and of itself is inherently bad. I don't think it's a bad thing. Even as a Frankie hater, I don't think it's a bad thing to experience a lot of crushes or like have a lot of love for people. Frankie might even be like polyamorous or something like that. That might be what she's experiencing as she like has all of these crushes and kind of is boy crazy. I don't think that's necessarily an appropriate criticism of her, especially because like not to get on my soapbox here, but I feel like it's considered a bad thing for girls to be boy crazy, but it's totally normal for guys to like want to hook up with a lot of girls. Anyway, I will say that some of like what I've heard about the more recent Gen 1 media, like the books and comics and stuff, seems like they're painting Frankie in a pretty bad light in terms of like not being just someone who has a lot of love and experiences a lot of attraction, but someone who like does that to other people's boyfriends. That's fucked up. That's not right. But I'm going to be charitable and like not count that as canon because I don't know. That's just, I feel like a lot of the new G1 media is so out there with like terrible things that happen and just like weird things that happen. So I don't know. That's my little explanation / rant about Frankie. Anyway, though, I do think because she does experience a lot of attraction and tends to have a lot of crushes, again, not in a negative way, I just don't know if she would ever feel ready to settle down with one person. Again, maybe she's polyamorous and ends up not really getting married, but like having a cozy little polycule that they're vibing with. Or maybe she gets married like later in life. She kind of, has a lot of different dates and stuff when she's younger. And then like she finally does settle down. I just think it would take some time for Frankie if she ends up getting married to reach that point. And again, even as a hater, I really don't mean that in a bad way in this case. I just can't see her. Like Cleo, I feel like would get out of high school and be like, okay, I've been with Deuce. Like, I know what I want. I want to be with Deuce. Let's go ahead and get married. I don't see that for Frankie at all. I think she would need some time to grow and like explore her feelings and all that jazz. So if she ever got married, it would be late in life, at least to me. And that leaves Claudine to be in sixth place. I don't think Claudine would ever get married. I think that she would be totally fine with having a long-term committed relationship. But I feel like Claudine is shown to be like the least interested in romance out of the core cast of characters that we're talking about today. And also she's so like fiercely independent. I think she would be totally down to have a life partner, to be committed to someone, to like be with someone for years and years and years. But I think that Claudine would find the idea of marriage very like antiquated and also rooted in misogyny. And I feel like she would just not be vibing with that. So she'd be like, I love you. I love you so much, but like we are never going to get married. I just feel like that's not on the table for her. And again, I don't mean that in a negative way. I'm married, but I understand it's not for everybody. And like I would never judge someone for not wanting to get married. So yeah, I think that that's just who Claudine is. I feel like she wouldn't want to participate in marriage. She would be a very loving person to her partner, but like I don't think she would want to get married. Also, while we're talking about marriage, would literally anybody want to see me do a video where I make mood boards for like the different Monster High characters' weddings? Because that's the kind of shit I like to do in my free time, but I don't know if anybody else cares. So like, honestly, I'm probably going to do it anyway. I just want to know whether I should post the video or whether that just needs to be something that stays inside my head. So let me know down below. But yeah, that's the order I think the characters would get married in. The next little scenario I have cooked up for you guys today is who would adjust best to becoming a human. So imagine like something cataclysmic happens at Monster High. All the characters that we're talking about today are turned into human beings instead of monsters, and there's no like way to change them back. They are humans for the foreseeable future, possibly forever. This isn't like a day. This is like, okay, you have to adjust to your new life. So we are ranking 1 to 6. Who's going to handle it the best? And first place has to go to Frankie. Frankie is already in a state of learning about things and like trying to figure out how the world works because she's quite new to the world in Gen 1. So I feel like her brain is already primed and ready to adapt to change and to like be open to new experiences and learning new things. So I feel like for her, it wouldn't be particularly difficult to go from, I know nothing, teach me about like how to interact with monsters to, okay, well, now I know how to interact with monsters, but here's something else new. Now I have to learn how to interact with humans more. I don't feel like that would be difficult for her. It would just be like switching lanes. It wouldn't be like this huge adjustment. So I feel like she would easily have the simplest time having to adjust to human culture. Second place I'm giving to Deuce because I do think that in some ways he would kind of vibe with being a person. I think he would be so fucking excited to be able to look people in the eye without having to wear his sunglasses all the time and just like be able to look around at people and like talk to them with eye contact and everything and not be worried about accidentally turning them into a statue. I'm only putting him in second place because I think that it would take him a little bit of time to adjust to the fact that he doesn't have to avoid eye contact. Like I feel like for the first little while, he's like still wearing sunglasses, like he still feels like he has to, and he finally takes them off, but he's like always looking down at the ground. Like he's trying to break those habits. And I feel like because he has been alive longer than Frankie, like in terms of literal years, not in terms of maturity, but in terms of literal years, I feel like that's more of a habit that's ingrained in him. So it would take him a little bit like longer to break that habit. But once he realizes, oh, wait, I actually can safely look at people, he's vibing. Like he already, I feel like looks mostly human. He might miss his snakes sometimes, but I think that he would adjust quite well to human life and like, again, to being able to like look at people without accidentally hurting them. So I feel like he'd do pretty darn solid. Next up is Cleo, and I feel like my reasoning for her is pretty simple. She did used to be a person. She's one of the monsters in like the cast of Monster High that actually was a human being at one point. It has been a long time, but she was a human being at one point. So I feel like she would just have to go through an adjustment period. But like, she already looks the most human realistically out of any of the characters that we're talking about today. So as far as appearances go, I feel like it'd be super easy for her to blend in regardless. And then just in terms of remembering how things work and like remembering that she's not a monster, it definitely would take her time to break that thought process because it has literally been thousands of years since she's been a human being. But I don't think that ultimately in the end it would be too difficult for her to kind of assimilate into human society. So this one's like, she's mostly here because it's a time thing. I think it would take her longer than Frankie or Deuce, but other than that, I don't think she would have too terrible a time of it. Next up is Draculaura for almost the exact same reasons as Cleo. Draculaura also began her life as a human, although she was human for like less time than she's been a vampire. So again, very much like Cleo, where she has some human experience that I think she could fall back on. It would just take some time to kind of relearn those things and remember that she's not a vampire. The only reason I think it would be harder for her to adjust than Cleo, even though she, I think, has been a monster less time than Cleo has, is I think that she would be weirdly upset about losing her pink skin. Which like sounds silly, but I just feel like Draculaura loves pink so much. I feel like as a vampire, she loves the fact that she has pink skin. Like, I feel like she's really into that. So I feel like if she woke up and had a human skin tone, she would just be like, why? Why is this happening? Where is my pink gone? And so that's why I think it would be harder for her to adjust. Is it silly? Maybe. But I think that she would rather be pink. Honestly, low key, I feel like she might just like face paint every single day so she still gets to be pink. And you know what? Go off. Good for her. But I think that would make it a little harder for her to adjust. Then in fifth place, we have Claudine. I don't think that Claudine would have a terrible time adjusting, but I do think she would have a really rough initial period. I'm really thinking of the Scaris movie when I say that, just because I feel like in that instance, we see that Claudine kind of has this almost crisis of identity where she starts to doubt herself and her skills as a designer. And I feel like a similar situation would happen if she were to suddenly wake up and be a human instead of a werewolf. I feel like she would have a bit of a crisis of identity and like has to take some time to really like check in with who she is and remember that her insides are still the same even if she is not a werewolf anymore. So I just feel like she would have a little bit more of a rocky start to adjusting to being human, but I do think she would get there in the end. However, I think she would never be able to fully shake her fear of silver. I feel like it's so ingrained in her as a werewolf that like not only is gold her color because it looks great on her, but like silver is dangerous to werewolves. And so I feel like she would always have a moment where she's like, I can't touch that when she sees like something silver in a store before she remembers, no, it's actually safe for me now. I don't think she would ever get rid of that little like tick, that little habit there. But aside from that, I think eventually she would be okay. It would just take her a little bit of time. And then in last place, we have poor Laguna. And I feel so bad saying this because, like, I like Laguna as a character. I don't feel like she deserves a hard time. But I think she would have such a hard time being a person. I feel like she would wake up and realize that she cannot swim the same way, and especially that she cannot breathe underwater, and she would lose her fucking mind. Like, I just don't think that she would cope well with that. It's just one of those things where some of the characters like Cleo, like being a mummy, does feel like her monster identity kind of is less interlinked with her life. Not to say it's not at all, but just like it's a little bit less so. Whereas I feel like for Laguna, her like whole self and like a lot of her personality is tied up in being a saltwater monster and like the struggles that she faced being a saltwater monster, but also her love of the ocean and her love of just water in general and being able to be in water to like feel herself and feel happy, and the like sports and activities that she does in water. I feel like that's all extremely important to Laguna. So I feel like if she woke up and was like, I can't breathe underwater anymore, she would lose her shit. And honestly, rightfully so. I probably would too. If I was someone who could breathe underwater and then suddenly I couldn't, I'd be so upset. So unfortunately, I feel like my poor girl Laguna would not cope well and probably wouldn't ever really fully accept it. I think she would spend the rest of the time, or like the rest of her life, whatever it might be, figuring out how to get back to being a monster because she just cannot tolerate human life. So sorry to end on kind of a downer, but yep. On to the next scenario, we have texting style. So this isn't going to be a ranking one. This is just kind of my thoughts here. And I'm talking about how I think these different characters would text you. Why? I don't know. Why did I do any of these? So starting off with Laguna, I feel like she would text you when it is strictly appropriate to send a text. Like if she knows that you're busy or she's super busy, she's just like, hey, a reminder, here's this. But other than that, I feel like she would prefer phone calls to texting. She just strikes me as that kind of person. I feel like she values getting to hear the inflection in people's voices. And also, I think that she probably hates to like wait for a text because like when you text someone sometimes they'll reply very quickly but like there's no guarantee that they're going to reply quickly. So I feel like Laguna just likes the fact that she can pick up the phone and call someone and like have a conversation right then and there immediately, guaranteed, instead of it being like a potential hours long back and forth as you guys are just kind of like busily going about your day. So I mean, she would text, like she would understand there is a time and place for texting, but I feel like her texts are short and sweet and she would infinitely prefer to just call somebody rather than have to text them. Then there is Claudine, and I feel like Claudine is like so busy. She has to be, right? Because she has her friends, obviously, who she wants to hang out with and who she's very loyal to. She's got a huge family, so I'm sure there's always something going on with someone that like might need her attention, or she's just hanging out with them, or whatever the case might be. And then she's got, you know, school, she's got her projects, her designing and everything like that. Claudine is super, super busy. And so because of that, I think that Claudine might be a little bit like me. I'm a terrible texter. I'm so bad at responding in a timely fashion. And I kind of feel like Claudine would be the same way. Like she will respond to you. She's not ignoring you willfully. It's not that she doesn't care about what you have to say. It's just that she's busy and she gets like caught up on other stuff and sometimes like forgets to respond. So all of her friends know that if you need a response immediately, you have to call her. Sometimes maybe a few times before she comes to the phone if she's like super, super busy. But like that's the only way you can guarantee you're going to get a prompt response. Other than that, anything unimportant or like that isn't time sensitive, you can text her and like you'll get a response within a few days for sure, but it might not be sooner than a few days. Then we have Draculaura, and I think she would be an avid texter, just like genuinely so glued to her phone. I think she would text like she's live tweeting, like multiple bubbles just all in a row, but not like short little bursts, right? I think she would do a lot of bubbles, do like she's like live tweeting you, just texting you every single detail of her day. But I mean literally every single detail of her day. So it's not like you're getting a hi and like in one bubble, how are you, next bubble. I mean like she is going in depth. She's on her phone in class being like, yo, this is my outfit for today. Do you think that's good or not? Here's like the exact thing that I'm wearing in minute detail. Do you think this shade of lipstick would go better? Like this is what's going on in class. Like she is writing like a diary in the text messages. I also think she would be a fan of emojis, but only the cute ones. Like she is peppering her text with like little pink heart emojis. I say all this lovingly. I really feel like she would be the total opposite of Claudine in that regard, where you cannot get her to stop texting and you cannot get her to text in a more reasonable fashion. She's going to send you enormous blocks of text several times a day. And like it's always done because she just wants to connect with you, but like sometimes it's going to be kind of annoying. When it comes to Cleo, I think she's going to be like Draculaura in exactly one capacity, and that is that she is glued to her phone because there's no way she's going to miss any happenings. Like, I feel like she's on social media more than she's texting. She has to keep up with absolutely everything that is going on in Monster High, but also in like the wider monster world. Like, she needs to be in the know in absolutely every instance. So she's always got her phone on her. That being said, I don't think that she would like actively reply to text a lot. I think that she would mostly react to text to just like let you know she's seen it and kind of give a brief indicator of how she feels about what you've said. But like, I don't think she's wasting her time sending messages back and forth constantly. She's like doing the like or the thumbs down or like the haha, like the little reactions that you can do. Maybe sending like an emoji as a response to just be like, yep, I get it. I also think that Cleo has her read receipts on very intentionally so that that way if she doesn't respond for any reason or like doesn't even react for any reason, you know full well she is ignoring you intentionally. Like I think she wants you to know. Like you see the little red receipt and it's like, oh yeah, Cleo read this 3 hours ago. She wants you to know that she was so displeased by what you said that she has chosen to simply pretend you didn't exist for 3 hours. Whenever she does decide to respond, I think she would be like perfect grammar, just like punctuation and everything. She's like real, almost high and mighty about it, where she's like, I don't need any of that slang. Like I know the slang, but I'm not going to use it because I'm above that. I don't know. That's the vibe I get from Cleo. It's kind of funny. Maybe a little bit mean, but kind of funny. For Deuce, Deuce was heavily inspired by Anthony. Sorry, Anthony, I'm calling you out. I think that he would respond quite promptly. Like, he's not glued to his phone in the sense that like Cleo and Draculaura are, but I feel like as soon as he has an opportunity, he is going to respond to you. He's not going to like make you wait or anything like that. But I also think that he responds mostly in GIFs. Not emojis, but GIFs. I think that's his preferred method of communication, is like sending silly little like GIF images or memes or stuff like that. And I think he would do it to everyone except for Cleo, because I think she threatened to break up with him over it early on in the relationship, where she was like, "You are not fucking doing this to me. You are not going to try to communicate with me through like GIFs. There's no way I'm standing for this. You're going to talk to me." So that's the only exception. That's the only time that he actually will like use words primarily. But other than that, if he can get away with it, he's sending an image instead of actually typing anything to respond to. Next up is Frankie, and I think that Frankie is going to be somewhat like Draculaura in the sense that she is a multi-texter, but I think that it's like a different style. Whereas Draculaura is going to give you 7 big blocks of text in a row, Frankie is just going to be one of those people. Also, this is no shade to like you if you text this way. Everybody communicates differently, but Frankie is going to be one of those people who does text like really little quips and like 1,000 different bubbles. So it's just like text, 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 all in a row. I also think she is beyond obsessed with emojis. Like Draculaura would like to use the little cutesy ones. Frankie will sit there and scroll through every single emoji to find the perfect one for whatever she's saying. And there's at least one per message. Like, she is not sending you a message that doesn't have at least one emoji in it. Sometimes several, sometimes like a whole string of emojis to really narrow down what she's feeling there. I think it would be, I don't know. It seems like a fun and like kind of bubbly, silly way to text. And for some reason, I feel like Frankie would do that. So there you have it. 2 more categories. This first one is 2000s fashion trends. I wanted to assign each character a very specific fashion trend from the 2000s. Because I know like every decade has its fashion and its trends and everything. And maybe it's just because I was growing up in the 2000s. But I feel like Y2K fashion is so distinctive and also so odd in many ways. And so I thought it would be fun to use that decade to assign trends to the characters. So starting off with Frankie, I think that Frankie is the excessive layering trend, specifically with tank tops. I don't know what it is. I just feel like Frankie strikes me as someone who like can be a bit indecisive, and so I feel like she would really love the idea of just layering a bunch of different things, so she doesn't have to pick one color. She can wear like 4 all at the same time. It just seems like something she would do. I can't really explain it. This category is going to be a lot more about vibes than anything else, but that's the vibe that I get for Frankie. Then for Draculaura, we have got platform flip-flops. Partially just, again, the vibe, something about that seems like Draculaura to me. But also, since she is short, I feel like she would feel like she can get away with wearing really, really tall platforms and it wouldn't make anybody bat an eye. Like, obviously, if you're super tall, go ahead and wear platforms, heels, whatever makes you happy. Like, who actually cares? But I feel like Draculaura would just be like, oh, I'm short. This is going to benefit me in this case. So I feel like she's got platform flip-flops in every single color, so she can wear it with whatever outfit she might be wearing. And she actually has 5 each of pink pairs and black pairs because those are her main colors. And she like has to make sure that she's got options when it comes to this. She's just got like a closet overflowing with platform flip-flops. I don't know about y'all, but I can see it. Then for Deuce, we have puka shell necklaces, which I can't really explain. Again, this is mostly vibes. I do think this is somewhat influenced by the fact that I vividly remember one of my older brothers wearing puka shell necklaces a lot when I was younger. And I just feel like I can see Deuce kind of wearing the same styles that he wore. But yeah, Deuce's puka shell necklaces. This might be unfair, but I gave Cleo 2 because I couldn't decide. So I think that Cleo would honestly be both of these at the same time, which is initial jewelry, like really bedazzled, like intense initial jewelry all over. Like, she is absolutely wearing the diamond encrusted C on the necklace, like the little earrings, bracelets, all of it. She wants you to know her initial is C, her name is Cleo, and she is damn proud of that. And the other thing is Juicy Couture tracksuits, just because I feel like That is so emblematic of like popular girl culture from the 2000s. So there's no way that Cleo would not be involved in that. And it's funny because like I don't think of Cleo as like a tracksuit person, but I think with the Juicy Couture ones, they are definitely meant to be more of a fashion statement than like, not that they aren't functional necessarily, like I'm sure they are also comfortable, but I'm sure she would just be like, oh, this is like the hot thing, like this is what cool people wear. I'm the coolest people of all, so obviously I have all of the coolest ones and like the best ones. Maybe like you can combine it. So she's got like the Juicy Couture across her butt, but like it also has like her initial on the waistband or something. Anyway. Next up we have Laguna, and I really considered giving her the puka shell necklaces because sea monster shells, it kind of meshes up. But more so than that, I think that she would be frosted lips. I can't explain it, but I just feel like Laguna would rock frosted lipstick so hard, which, side note, I need frosted lipstick to become like a huge trend again. It's so pretty. Like there's just something about it that I think looks so good on so many people. And I think it would also look fabulous on Laguna. And then lastly, we have Claudine. And I think Claudine would be the super low rise jeans queen. Now, like I really need to like highlight that I mean super low rise. Some of you like might be a little bit young to really remember how low rise the jeans were in the 2000s, but I'm not talking about low rise today. I'm talking about low rise where it's like dangerous for you to sit down because your butt might fall out. Claudine never has that problem though. Somehow, I feel like she's a mystery to everybody else because she's always wearing the lowest of low rise jeans, but like somehow she just makes it work and she never has like a wardrobe malfunction or anything. She just effortlessly wears them. I think that unlike people like me who fear low rise jeans, I think low rise jeans fear Claudine. So I think that's her like government assigned 2000s fashion trend. And then the last category is what do they drink or how much do they drink or anything like that. Obviously, this is like assuming that they reached legal age for whatever monster type they are. Cause like, I mean, there's already a lot of questions about how aging works in terms of the fact that you have 16-year-olds and 1600-year-olds and like 5,000-ish-year-olds all going to the same high school. So there's that. So I don't really know how like the drinking age works when it comes to Monster High, but just pretend that they're old enough to go out drinking, and this is what I think that they would drink and how much they would drink and all of that jazz. So starting off with Cleo, I think that Cleo is a wine drinker. I think she very much prefers red wine, but like she will drink white wine if it pairs better, if like she's at a dinner or something, because she's not a heathen. Like she's going to drink what goes with her meal. But if she's just drinking for fun, it's red wine. I also think that when she gets drunk, only her like close friends can really tell that she's drunk because I feel like she acts almost the exact same, just like slightly louder about her opinions. But like she's already so loud about her opinions that I feel like for a lot of people, especially people who don't really know Cleo, they're just like kind of seeing her. They're like watching her down a bottle of red wine like it's absolutely nothing and acting like she's completely unaffected. And only people close to her are like, "Oh, girlie, you're getting a little loud, like just a little bit louder than normal. Like you're kind of you're towing the line there." But yeah, I think Cleo would be a very sophisticated drinker. I also don't think she would get drunk often because I think that she would consider that like beneath her and she wants to remain in control of her faculties. But like when it does happen, that's the scenario. Then this might be my favorite one. Then for Deuce, I think that he's not really much of a drinker. On occasion, he'll like sip from Cleo's drink if they're out together. But I think that for the most part, he prefers not to drink and he's much more of a stoner, which like, haha, turns people to stoner. That wasn't intentional. I can see him being a little bit more of a stoner. I also think that when he gets high, he forgets why he has to wear sunglasses. Like I feel like he's just really confused about why he has to wear them, and his friends all have to like duct tape them to his head so he doesn't accidentally turn everyone around him to stone when he gets high. Other than that, I bet he's a blast. I bet he's just like super chill, super like vibey, like kind of laughing a lot, having a good time. But that's like the only hazard is I think that he really needs some extra protective layers there for other people's safety when he gets high. But other than that, he's super chill. Then when it comes to Laguna, I don't think she really drinks. I think that she, tried it out. She's had a few different kinds of alcohol to see if they affect her differently, but ultimately she just doesn't like how it makes her feel. Obviously, you can be an athlete and still be someone who drinks, but I feel like for Laguna specifically, as someone who is a big athlete, I think that she would like go out drinking one night, the next morning go for a swim and feel a little bit fuzzy and be like, I do not like the way that makes my body feel. Like I'm not vibing with it. That being said, she absolutely still goes out with her friends and has just tons of fun little mocktails. And also she's not like trying to hide it, right? No judgment if you're someone who like feels self-conscious about not drinking or like wants to pretend that your mocktails are real. That's your business. Again, no judgment. But I feel like Laguna doesn't feel that. I feel like she's just like, yeah, I have my mocktails because I don't really like to drink. And she's like very open about that, very proud of that fact. She's just vibing with her little like virgin strawberry daiquiri and kind of like helping everyone else stay okay while they're out having fun. Unfortunately, in this regard, I think Frankie's me. I think Frankie goes out and has one cocktail or margarita, and like that's really all she should be having. And if she has two, she's on the floor. Again, unfortunately, she is me. I have an unbelievably low tolerance, which on the bright side makes me a really cheap date. But like, yeah, I can have exactly one drink and I'm already loopy. Like I'm bad after one drink. Two drinks and I'm gone. And I think that Frankie would be very much the same. So like she doesn't have to spend a lot to go out and have fun, but she does need to be watched over, especially like by Laguna, the sober friend of the group. She's like checking on Frankie, making sure she's okay. Draculaura, I think, is the complete opposite. I think that that vampire tolerance goes crazy hard, and she is just downing cocktail after cocktail. It would specifically be cocktails. Draculaura wants the funnest, fruitiest, like most girly pop drinks. Good for her. I love those. But she is just slamming them and has absolutely no effect on her. Like, honestly, I don't even know if she's ever managed to successfully get drunk because the tolerance is just so high. So, like, she's having fun, but she's not drunk. That being said, I do think that on occasion she will get high with Deuce and just sit there and giggle for like 4 hours straight. And in that way, she's also me. And then lastly, we have Claudine. Now, I think that Claudine, the werewolf tolerance, would go very nearly as hard as the vampire tolerance, but like not quite. I think it's possible for Claudine to get drunk easier than Draculaura. Like I said, I don't even know if Draculaura can get drunk, but like I think Claudine can. I think it just takes a lot to get there. So I think she starts the night just downing straight tequila to try to get a buzz as fast as possible. Once she starts feeling a buzz, I feel like she switches to beer. I don't know why. Just Claudine strikes me as someone who would enjoy a beer. I think she prefers the taste of beer, but like she's not willing to wait as long as it takes to get purely beer drunk for her. So I think it's tequila, then beer after beer after beer after beer to maintain the buzz. And I think she is just the most vibey drunk person. Like I feel like she's just kind of there, kind of quiet, calm, chill, like very fun when you do talk to her, but like she's not necessarily seeking out social interaction. She's just kind of chilling. Those are just the vibes that I get from Claudine. But those are going to be all of these scenarios that I had for you guys today. Had a blast as per usual. I think I mentioned this in my first hypotheticals video, but this is the kind of shit that like is just running through my head anyway all the time for fun. I just love thinking about stuff like this, so getting to film videos for it is also super, super fun. Definitely let me know your thoughts on everything that I talked about today, or if you want to give me what you think a different character would be like in a certain scenario, I'd also be very happy to hear that. I always love hearing y'all's thoughts and opinions on every video, but especially thought exercises like this. I'm like, give me all of it. I want to hear everything. But those are all of my thoughts for today. So I'm finally going to let you go. This was another long one. Hopefully a fun one, though. I do hope you guys were able to enjoy. And I hope you have a lovely rest of your day or your night, whatever it might be. And I will catch you in the next one. Bye, guys.